Washington State and Oregon State file a motion seeking full control of the Pac-12. Let's break it down.
College football expansion is always in the news, and that's why we're back again on the Big Mountain, where we bring you a detailed focus on the Big Ten and the Mountain West.
Hey, it's good to have you back. We have just another short episode here we want to go over regarding the Washington State and Oregon State motion that was filed on October 25th. This was a motion for preliminary injunction seeking control of the Pac-12 board. Nothing really new. We know that's what they're going for here, but the interesting thing here really wasn't the motion, but it was a lot of the information that was attached via discovery, kind of laying the groundwork a little bit more. Again, I don't think too many surprises, so to speak. It's exactly what they've been saying, but there were some documents attached that solidify some of this a little bit. So we want to walk through that. They say, again, they have obtained some of this information that confirms that the departing schools gave notice of withdrawal in their definition of such. The lawyers cited information obtained through this discovery phase to support this request, and we're going to go down through several items that came out of this motion. The first, they talk about this briefing book that was created after USC and UCLA had already said that they were going to be leaving. This was given to all member universities. It was said to be highly confidential, and the book did not contain the presidents of USC or UCLA. So again, support of the fact that they were no longer in the Pac-12 and specifically board members of the Pac-12. There was two sworn statements by Commissioner K that both UCLA and USC were removed by the board, just two different letters and documents where he stated that they were no longer board members. The third item, there was a convening of numerous board meetings in which UCLA and USC were both not present at. We did talk about that a little bit in the past. Some of the opinions there were that they weren't present because they were moving forward with the media rights deal, and why would they be involved in these meetings for a media rights deal to which they have absolutely no skin in the game on? Again, I think it depends on who you talk to. I mean, specifically here it says they talked about a whole bunch of things at these meetings, not just media rights deals, but everything that a board would be talking about, and they weren't present. Next one was a letter sent to Colorado University stating that they no longer had a right to vote. This is after, they had stated that they would be leaving.
Sent by the conference, right?
Sent by the conference, sent by the commissioner. Right? A lot of this really was sent by the commissioner or the conference, but obviously signed by the commissioner. And then lastly was a text from Commissioner K to a reporter on August 5th that stated, as of today, we have 4 board members. So very much painting the picture here that at least the commissioner felt that none of these were, and by the commissioner I should say, at least the Pac-12 administration thought that they were no longer board members. The other piece here that I found kind of interesting, it goes back to a little bit of, from our last episode or 2 episodes ago, we talked about the media rights deal, and we were really focused kind of on ESPN and why that didn't happen and the valuation of that, kind of the inner workings of the presidents. I'll put a little link here, if you want to go back and watch that, if you haven't seen it, you can go back and take a look at that. But again, part of Discovery came out that on a Tuesday, this is when they were moving to try and get a streaming contract with Apple, which seemed like it was, according to these documents, extremely close to happening. On a Tuesday, Commissioner K, and I think the couple subsequent days, presented a streaming media package from Apple to the board. Again, this time being a 10-member board. On that Friday, the league basically collapsed.
Right.
So, again, according to some of these Discovery paperwork and information, the league presidents agreed on that Thursday evening. So he presented on a Tuesday, Wednesday. That Thursday evening, the presidents agreed to sign the needed paperwork to finalize the deal with Apple on Friday morning, the next day. Minutes before that meeting occurred, Oregon and Washington announced that they were joining the Big Ten. I'm not going to say they said they were withdrawing, because they would say, if they were here, they would say, well, we didn't say we were withdrawing. We just said we were joining the Big Ten.
You can only be in one conference at a time.
I understand. But that's what they would say.
Yeah.
And so, so this is where, again, we talked in that media rights deal episode that we just put out about these, in my opinion, a lot of behind closed doors where a few people are in, there's backstabbing happening. I mean, here they're talking about they agreed to sign this paperwork, and in not even 24 hours, 12 hours later or less, whoops, at that time the two biggest schools left of this 10 are headed to the Big Ten. So that just doesn't. That's rough. That's rough. Last thing I just want to add is, as of from everything that I saw so far, the University of Washington, who did put in a motion, they haven't provided a single document yet during this discovery phase. Now they still can. Clearly, they still have time to put things together. They have another 2-ish weeks until the hearing. But there's been no documents provided yet by Washington. So that's the update I got, Steve. What are you thinking?
So my very first thoughts on this, it brings me all the way back to the very first episode that we did on this topic, when there was the temporary restraining order. And I said at the time, I was very impressed with the lawyer that was representing the Pac-12 and the commissioner's office. That he did a good job on short notice. I did say there was some risk in the arguments that he was making, that they were trying to have it both ways a little bit, and if the other side could show that they're trying to have it both ways, it would totally blow up everything, all of their arguments they were trying to make. Right. And in that episode, I said they're trying to make it sound now like that the commissioner, they're not taking a part in this, that they're representing all of the teams. Right. But now we have more evidence. So now we had some previous evidence, and now we have even more evidence that the commissioner's office, the conference office, and the commissioner's office did play a part in this throughout the process. When USC and UCLA left, they sent notice and said, you're not voting members anymore. And they sent information to everybody else saying, you guys are the only 10 members. When Colorado left, we have an indication now that the Pac-12 office, the commissioner's office, took a stand in that and said, you are no longer voting members. So basically they're shooting their own. I mean, obviously Washington State and Oregon State is presenting this information, right, but it's showing that their own case that they're trying to make, that they didn't even believe that case from the beginning. And that's why it was so dangerous. And it was kind of dumb for them to go that far, because all they had to say was, we need to get these other schools joined, and the judge agreed with them from very beginning that those other schools needed to be joined to this lawsuit. That's all they had to do to accomplish their goals. And they wanted to do some routine business, which the judge easily agreed to that. Right. But it was really dumb to make that argument. It was very risky to go ahead and say that the league office and the commissioner's office doesn't take any part in this. We don't have a side. It's not up to us to determine who's on the board, when they very clearly have been determining who's on the board. They've been sending notice, and then all parties have been acting accordingly. Right. So then you have you're saying that bylaws for this organization is basically a contract that they're all signing. And so you're saying that the contract says this. However, you're operating like it says something completely different, but now you want to go back and say, well, it actually says this, so this is how. Very risky from them, and I think Washington State and Oregon State are doing a good job on this. I still think that this is just another step. We talked about chess moves. You had the original move by Washington State and Oregon State. You had the moves by the other schools to be joined to the lawsuit and make their arguments. And now this is another counter move by Washington State and Oregon State, shooting holes in the Pac-12's the commissioner's original argument from the first case, and from the overall case, just shooting holes in that. And it just leads me to believe that there's going to be a settlement. Both sides have a lot of risk. Oregon State and Washington State are left holding the bag. They want to move forward. They have an opportunity to get a lot of revenue and move forward over the next 2 years. That's what they want to do. And they risk, if they lose this, getting it all blown up. And on the other side, these other schools, they are moving on. They are going to be getting paid more money. They're moving on. Every time that this case goes back to court, they risk losing and just absolutely being totally shut out of all revenue, all parts of the Pac-12, and basically going to their new conference with an empty bank account, which is stupid by them. So I think that these moves, again, it's just a counter move in the chess game, and Washington State, Oregon State, really good evidence that they brought, really good chess move, and it's going to lead to a settlement.
Yeah, I'm going to play a little bit of a devil's advocate here for you. So the first thing you said that I'm going to push back on slightly is you mentioned the judge was more than willing to give them that business. They can have the meeting for business. That actually wasn't the case. If you remember, they had to push back on him 2 or 3 times. I mean, he was almost pleading, the Pac-12 attorney was almost pleading with the judge that they could at least have a vote via email. And then he finally said, "Oh, okay, I guess you can do that." So he wasn't really into it there for a while.
I took that more of a not that he was against it, more that he was kind of overlooking it as part, and the lawyer smartly said, "I want to make sure that," because he said, "Oh yeah, you can do that. That makes sense." And the lawyer's like, "Well, it's great that you say that, but can you put that in the actual in writing?" Okay. So I get your point. They did have to push on that, but I don't think the judge was against it, and it was smart that they did that, of course.
And that's really neither here nor there. I just wanted to call you out a little bit, at least from what I saw. Yeah. Now, the one thing that I will say here, and you may say, well, they might be flip-flopping. What we heard back in the original hearing was that Schultz actually asked for, President Schultz, who was the Pac-12 board president, he's also the president of Washington State University, asked Commissioner K for a meeting of the 12 to try and work this out. Now, what a lot of the reporting has been was that the PAC was trying to do this, not necessarily behind anyone's back, but it was really interesting to me when the lawyer pushed back on that and said, no, actually, it was Schultz that asked for this meeting. We have not seen any proof documents in terms of how did that really go, but there's definitely 2 sides to that now, and I'm anxious to see how that, because that may not change a judge's opinion here, but it definitely, when you look at this and say, people that don't have the details, they go, well, they kept saying this all the time, everything that you said, and through these the things that I said, the statements that Commissioner K, the this briefing book, the text, the blah, 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 all this stuff I said in the beginning, but then all of a sudden they request this meeting of the 12.
Right.
That's not, according to the lawyer of the Pac-12, it didn't come from the Pac-12 commissioner's office.
Right.
It came from Schultz.
Yes.
That's a big difference. I think a lot of people just think, oh, the Pac-12 was trying to do this. Again, according to the judge, according to the lawyer, that it didn't come from the Pac-12. So I think that's very something I want to make sure we're very clear on. The other thing is, the Pac-12. This is all of this document is about Commissioner K and the Pac-12, but Commissioner K saying who is or who isn't a member.
Right.
And clearly, I mean, plenty of documentation here saying that Commissioner K at least thought that these people weren't members.
Right.
Is there going to be evidence in the future of any of these schools pushing back on his determination in his letter? We don't know that yet, but there could have been. We don't know.
Absolutely.
Also, while it's his opinion that they're no longer members, clearly the members think that they're still members. So the case, I think, is strong here in terms of what Commissioner K and how he was reading the bylaws. Very clear there. That doesn't mean that's how the other members read the bylaws. And yes, are they playing this, I use the phrase Monday morning quarterbacking too much, but are they kind of doing this after the fact and they weren't proactive about it early on? It certainly looks that way.
Yep.
And it'll be interesting to see if University of Washington or any of them have documents that will prove that, no, we have pushed back on this. And I remind everybody there was some reporting that said USC, as I said earlier on, USC and UCLA were held out of the board meetings because of the media rights deals.
Right.
That was the main reason. Now, I'd like to see document evidence that says, yeah, you're not going to be here because of the media rights deals. And
did they only talk about media rights deals and any things?
Exactly. So there's a lot of questions here, but I think at least painting the picture of the commissioner defined what this means, I think that's pretty clear. That's exactly what this is. So,
and that's the thing is, and you made a lot of good points there, and I totally agree. And both sides are going to be making these back and forth points. I do still hold to I think it was really dumb in that first hearing for the Pac-12's lawyer to try and make the argument that that the commissioner holds no stance in this, and it's he doesn't want to make the determination, and he's not trying to make and he can't make the determination when there's obvious written documentation that he did try and make this determination before. Now, maybe by that point he no longer wanted to try and do that,
Right.
but at a certain point he did.
Yes.
And so I think that was a dumb strategy by them. But there's all kinds of other nuances. And your point about Schultz, that kind of leads me back to, we talked about this before, really weird position for him, where he's the president of one of the universities, but he was also the board president. And, how did he act as board president versus as a president of one of the universities? Kind of a conflict of interest in some ways. But that's inherent in these type of associations.
Correct.
But how is a court of law going to? And again, there's so many arguments that both sides can make that I just think that this will lead to a settlement because it's so messy. It's so why are they going to want to stay in this so long? Oregon State and Washington State want to move on at least for the next 2 years, trying to hold the conference together. These other schools are going to greener pastures with more money, going to get more money. I think both sides just have a real incentive to come to a settlement and break this clean.
And you're exactly right on them opening that door. And he even made the comment, the lawyer made the comment, this is a disagreement between board members.
Yeah.
Leave it at that.
Yes.
Leave it at that.
And say they need to be added.
Because this whole motion here
Yep.
is in response to the comments that the Pac-12 has. So if all they would have said was, this is a disagreement among board members, this motion may not even be filed.
Absolutely. Gave them opened the door and said, run right through this.
Yeah. So anyway, hey, that's it for this one. We're getting close to the hearing date. I'm sure, again, there's going to be more stuff happening, more stuff coming out. We don't record every day, so we may be a day or two behind others that do record every day, but we'll be sure to get it to you. And with that, we thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on the Big Mountain.